So today's topic will be about beating frames to get a chest-to-chest connection to be able to actually pass a guard. And I feel that's something that's undervalued and undertrained because it's a little bit of the fight you have to take in the middle, right? You know, like plenty of passes, but they all have in common that you need to beat frames in some way or the other, right? If you cannot beat frames, you cannot pass. And beating frames is very universal, so it will help you out in other positions and other instances as well. So it's a good topic to practice. But before we start talking about frames, like their definition and how to beat them, we need to make and maintain connection. Because if I cannot stay in position and I'm gonna get pushed out right away, I cannot start the process of passing. So I need to be able to stay in position, be stable, and put weight and pressure on my opponent. So it cannot just simply push me out, okay? So we're gonna start in a cross hamstring position. That means my partner's laying supine. I put my foot in the crook of his knee. I'm gonna point my knee towards his shoulder, and he has his foot on the floor. From here, I'm just gonna get a tight waist, and Tom is allowed to frame. He can frame on both shoulders, he can frame on one shoulder, he can frame however he wants to, but he wants to get barriers between us, right? So a frame is a structure Tom builds with his body where he can not just go through with brute strength, right? But if I stay here and my position is off, Tom's just gonna push me out and bring his knee shield back in, or maybe even push me out further. So I need to be able to pressure on him and stay connected in a way that doesn't give him the ability to disconnect and bring further frames into play. Does that make sense for you guys? So when we're here, we actually need to pressure forward. We need to anchor ourselves in one way or the other. But this is the starting point. I can place my feet in any kind of way as long as Tom is not able to push me out and get his legs involved. That's all we need to do for now. It's just stay in position, right? If it's too easy for you, switch sides. Also practice on the other side, right? Start with the 100% of resistance. And if I can't manage that, you can lower the resistance a little bit. But I don't want to pass, I don't want to do anything. I just want to stay there, stay connected, not get pushed out. I'm going to tell you when to switch. Everybody clear on the starting point and on the focuses you have from top and bottom? Yes, he wants to push me away and get his legs involved again. Okay? You want to clap? Preach there. So, 1, 2. So now, be honest. Did you succeed? Top. It wasn't easy, right? One of the reasons why it's not easy is because you're not allowed to do anything. You're just allowed to stay there. In order to, get rid of frames, you need to do more. And if people get enough disconnection, depending on how you are built also, they're gonna put in knees right away. It's like hard to hold that connection if you're only allowed to stay there, right? So now the question is, how do we beat frames? So if I have Tom here, if he has a frame here, I can put all my body weight, don't use the second arm, I can use all my body weight to pressure into him, and he can still hold it, right? Because it's the structure of his body. So now the question is, how am I able to beat that structure? And the first solution is angle. So if he has the frame in the middle of my chest, I can angle one or the other way to get rid of it. Even though I'm not putting weight on here right now because I don't want to bend his wrist, right? But with angle, you get disconnection, so you can actually get the frame off of you. It's not just one way. You need to be multi-directional with it. Now the question is, if he frames with both arms, I cannot get angle, right? But there's not only one way to get an angle. It's not just moving me, I can also move him, right? Sometimes I need to disconnect, because if I put a lot of pressure, there's a lot of friction that can be hard. If I disconnect, like, it's gonna be really easy to get away, right? So those are the two main ways to beat them. It's like get an angle by moving yourself or by moving him. And sometimes it's a little bit of both. So now the question is, how do we do that in the context there? And we need to use push and pull motions because he's gonna follow, right? So we have a couple of different possibilities to frame. For him, it's important that he frames the leading edge. Framing the leading edge means he frames the part of my body that's closest to him at pressures forward. So when I pressure forward with this shoulder here, like, it's important that he frames that shoulder. If I pressure in with the other shoulder, it's important that he frames the other shoulder. And he can use both arms to do that, but then both of his arms have work to do. So he doesn't have a free arm to work with. So it can be a good idea to get a cross shoulder post. That means he has a free arm, and if he bends the elbow, he can control both of my shoulders with one arm. But I'm already closer, right? If you go double shoulder posts, further away, but he doesn't have a free arm. He goes cross shoulder post, he can control both sides of the shoulder, and he has a free arm, but I'm also a little bit closer. So there's pros and cons to both. Both are correct depending on what you want to achieve. Does that make sense for you? So now we're gonna start in the same position. And all I wanna do is play around with angles and find a way to connect chest to chest. I don't need to pass. I just need that connection. And if I can get it, I've won. We start over. So to make it a little more interesting, Tom starts with a cross shoulder post in the first go and with double shoulder posts in the second go. So you alternate between those two. He can also switch in between. He doesn't have to stay there. But it's important that you play around with both, because people will do both. So you need to be able to beat both. So when we're here, and he has a cross shoulder post, I have different directions to work. Like I can work up, I can work down, I can work to one side, I can work to the other side. And you need to use all of those sides to beat that frame. And he will adjust. So he wants to keep his frames in place. So if I come up, he's gonna follow. So I need to come over or come down. Switch the sides. It's push and pull principle. I push, he pushes. I pull, he pulls. Right? And you need to use that multi-direction. And there's countless ways to do it. And I just want you to figure out which ways you can go, which ways you can connect chest to chest with the easiest. And it's the same thing with double shoulder posts. You have different directions you can go to. Now you need to figure out what ways are ways that work well for you and what are the ones that don't work that well for you. So, starting position, and the focus is top and bottom clear. Yes. So it's the same as before, right? So Tom wants to frame, and he wants to keep me away to get one or the other knee in, depending on the position, right? I want to pressure, and I want to beat those frames, get chest to chest. Now we start over. Now he used to double shoulder posts now, so he's going to use cross shoulder posts then. And now he needs to frame me away. Go. He got it in. He won. Frame. That's all you need to do. He wants to frame away, bring his legs into play, and I want to use angles to beat his frames, connect chest to chest, and we're going to start. I'll tell you when to switch. 1, 2. So was everybody able to get chest-to-chest connection in one way or the other, at least a couple of times? Okay, so depending on your level in comparison to the level of the training partner, you may need to put more constraints into place. Because it's too easy, if it's too easy, you will not learn anything. If it's too hard, you will not succeed at all. So you need to find the middle ground. And we don't want to do less resistance all the time because then it just becomes non-resistant training, right? We want to bring in more constraints for ourselves or for our partner if it doesn't work. So for example, if I have Tom here and he just pushes me out of position every time, one good constraint, extra constraint for him would be that he's not allowed to bring his knee shield in. He's just allowed to frame, so he cannot win the game. So that makes it easier, right? If it's too easy for me, I can start getting further away a little bit, right? So it's easier for him to get the knee shield in. And you can pretty much do that with every game. You just need to figure out what the next step is, progression and regression, right? And the more you can do that on your own, the better it will be, because you will have different training partners. Some are better, some are worse, some are approximately at the same level. And you can still make it interesting if you put extra constraints on one or the other. Does that make sense for you guys? Okay, very good. So now, if my partner gets his knee shield in, I still need to maintain connection. So we get one step further away, but the objective is the same. I need to stay connected. So now he has his knee shield in, and we're going to start with a cross shoulder post for now, right? He can use and frame the secondary arm, and I don't just want to stand here because he's just going to push away with the knee. He's going to extract his leg. He's going to get another guard. He gets more frames in than before. So I need to find ways to pressure him. One good way to do that, and there are others, but I think this is the most beginner friendly, is to work with heavy shoulders. So I actually want to put my head down and my hip up to be able to pressure in. I don't want to put the knee down necessarily, even though I can. I want to keep it up. But I want to pressure here, and I monitor his leg. So if he wants to push me away now, like that's supposed to be really, really hard. And if he's not careful, he's going to push his knee shield out. And now I've got something that I didn't have before, which is good for me, right? So he needs to manage the pressure he gets into me. And I just want to stay there. He wants to push me out. He wants to get his second leg into play and get some form of guard that involves both of his legs. It can be inside position, it can just be posts, it can be whatever you want to, as long as you involve the second leg and push myself up. I just want to stay there, right? He moves, he wants to break connection, he wants to get his leg into play. And I want to keep connected and pressure in a way that I don't lose balance and he will not be able to push me out, right? Some of you will not lead with the head enough. Put the head down, put the butt up. Find the sweet spot. Everybody clear on what you're supposed to do? No. Okay, so starting position is knee shield, cross shoulder post. My head comes down, my hip comes up. And now he just wants to push me out of position and get his second leg into play, either by hooking both legs to the inside or just getting both legs in. And I just want to use my body weight and pressure to stay here and keep this leg out of the play. So if he wants to push me out, like now it's going to be really hard. Come on, work, 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 work. I need to push, I need to pummel. Now he succeeded, right? He disconnected and he brought his second leg into play. He couldn't bring this one into play, so he brought this one into play. And I need to monitor both. I want to stay in position as long as possible. If it's too easy, switch sides. Also do the other side, see if that works. Okay? 1, 2. Were you able to hold position? Okay. What problems did you occur?
When I tried to stack in and put my head down and spot up, it was really easy for it to come the leg. If I kept low, I had not enough pressure to push me away.
Anything else? So, what would be the appropriate answer for both of those questions? Anybody has any idea? Could you repeat the question? Repeat the question. Yeah? So more or less, the problem was, it was hard to hold connection at both places at the same time, and you get out pummeled, right? So, if I just pressure the knee, they're gonna push me out, right? If I just pressure with the head, they're gonna pummel. So I need to find a way where I can position myself in a way that I can pressure both points. And this will be different for each and every one of you, because everybody is built different. I have a long upper body, so my positioning head-wise to hip-wise will be different than yours. So you need to find an alignment that keeps pressure on both of those spots. So if I'm just here, right, there's not enough pressure there, so I need to project my hip into him a little bit. If I'm too far off, however, he can just redirect me. It's not gonna serve me well. So I need to find a sweet spot. Like I need to find a spot where I can still like pressure in with my leg, pressure in with my head. And if Tom tries to push me away now, like that's gonna be really, really hard. Like it's gonna be taxing, like I'm connecting myself into position. Like I don't just stay there and do nothing. I keep connection. Now he opened his knee. Now he cut in. So what did I do wrong?
Lifted your head.
I didn't get pressure onto his knee so he could actually bring it to the outside. So for the next time I know, okay, if he tries to bring his leg to the outside, that's the point I need to pressure more. So it's not, you get in position and that's it. It's constant movement and micro adjustments that you make to be able to hold the position. And you need to get a feel for that. Because the feeling is the thing that you're lacking. And because it will be different for every one of you, there's not one answer to give. Okay, what problems do we have? Where do you lose connection or where do you lose pressure? In order to be able to pressure, you need to have connection. But you can also have connection that's not pressuring. Like this is a connection that's not pressuring, I'm just touching it. So it can't be cosmetic. You need to put regulated tension in the position. And now it gets easier again because you are allowed to beat the knee shield. It's harder to just stay there because you can just extend, try to push away. But if he uses extension, he also gives me a longer lever I can work with. So it's easier to beat the knee, one way or the other. So how do we beat frames again? I need to angle off, right? It's either I switch my angle or I switch his angle towards me. That's the ways we have, right? So when we're in position, one way to get rid of the knee shield is angling off to the side. And now we're in position. If he pressures down, like that's gonna be really, really hard. But now I might find ways to stop it the other way. So I need to move multi-directional again. On the other side. So when we're here, I pressure in, like I use pressure. It can't be cosmetic, like this and this looks like the same. But Tom can tell you it's not, like I put pressure into him, I project my weight into him. And he tries to frame, it's going to be really, really hard, and it's going to be easier to kill it. Now, if he tries to push it in even more, like that can be hard, but it's going to be easier to stuff it and get into position. I need both ways, and there's more. You can also push forward and backwards, different angles, just like with the upper body frames. But you need to find ways to get an angle that beats the knee shield one way or the other. So now we're going to do the same thing. Nothing changes, besides the fact that I'm allowed to beat the knee shield. If in the process I can come chest to chest right away, perfect. If I can't, no big issue. I just need to beat the knee shield. I don't need to beat the upper body frames as well, if you cannot do it right away. Because we're gonna connect those battles later. Now it's just about the knee shield. Everybody got the focuses you have? Top, bottom, start position. After that round, there's short feedback. So give your partner feedback and where you felt that he lacked pressure or not. Very short, 30 seconds. So we're gonna work 2 minutes, 30 seconds feedback, and then we're gonna switch. If you're finished with feedback, switch right away and start. Everybody clear on what you're supposed to do? Yeah. That depends on how we stack up to each other. But if I can, that's a good position to be. 1, 2. Any questions?
We noticed that when she brings her knee up, the knee shield is much harder to pass because she can lift my head. Wait. When she puts her knee shield in her knee shield, her knee up, my head is like really far up, and I can't really stack in that much, and I didn't have a good answer for that, I guess.
Does anybody have an answer for it? You should have one. Show it.
Okay, so as the knee shield comes up, rather than leading with our head, we have to lead with our hips, like this, and make him uncomfortable in that way. And if he doesn't like it and he brings his knee back down, we go back to where we were.
Yeah, good. Go. So, what's the general answer to this? Because it's not a specific thing per se. Like he showed something specific, but he did use the concepts we were talking about. Changing the angle, push, pull, right? He overextends in one way, I'm gonna go there. And I need to play off of it. And because I cannot pressure with my shoulder against an open knee, I pressure with my hip. So I change the leading edge of the body. Does that make sense for you guys? So it's pretty much the same concept we've been doing for the last 50 minutes. So now, we're gonna play the whole game. We're gonna start in the same position. I wanna get rid of the knee shield. I wanna get rid of the upper body frames and get chest-to-chest connection. You don't have to necessarily pass, okay? Because there's pummeling involved. There's some extra skills you need, right? If you just pass when you're chest-to-chest, you don't have any upper body control, people are gonna throw you off. But it's not about that today. It's a different skill set. It's an important one, but it's not the one that we wanna be spending time working on. So we wanna just beat frames, get a feel for it, not get overextended, okay? Bottom person just wants to regain frames. If he can, I try to force position right away. So I don't want to get pushed out all the way. I want to stay in the middle and try to re-engage in the same position we were at before. So we're going to start in the same spot. Nothing changed. But if Tom is able to push me out, put something in, I'm not going to stay here. I want to reconnect. I want to get rid of the frames you put in front of myself with angling. And then I want to be back in position. And now we're going to go working. Now we're going to go back. Right, chest to chest. That's it. Start over. So he's pushing, he's pushing. He puts me out of position. I go back into play. Like, I want to stay here. I want to be here. Like, it's supposed to be demanding. Chest to chest. That's all we need to do. Right? Find ways. The more you can do, the better. Right? Try to do different things. If you can beat him a couple consecutive times with the same thing, do something else. Because you can beat him the next 5 times with that also. So, as of now, we don't want to do that, but that's a good option you have additionally. But we want to stay connected in that case. Yeah. Good? 1, 2. You will fix most of your problems if you position yourself properly at the beginning. So I've had Tom here. He stops playing around with his phone. Most of you are parallel to the floor. You're like head down and you're like here. It's super easy to push me out because I cannot project any weight into him, right? So if I'm here, I push myself up and I push myself forward. Now it's going to be really, really hard for Tom to push me out and get me out of position. Like, it's going to be very, very demanding. Doesn't mean he can't, but he needs to push the whole time. And every time he gives me too much of a lever with his frames, I'm redirecting. It's very, very exhausting. So even if you cannot pass someone right away, you will make them tired. Like, you can stay there for longer periods of time if you know how to position yourself, right? And I get it. Like, it feels awkward at the beginning because we always say, oh, head up, hip down, otherwise you get swept. In that case, that's not true. If you position yourself properly and don't bring your head like over your partner too much, it's not going to be an issue. But you need to find the sweet spot. And then it's going to be easier to hold the position. It's going to be easier to redirect frames. It's going to be easier to pass. But most of your issues are there because you're not positioning yourself properly at the beginning. And because it's an unusual position for most of you, that's hard at the beginning because it goes against many of the things you are told not to do. If you want to see that work really, really well, look at Joseph Chan, Jason Rao. Like, they're a nightmare to deal with, right? So now we have a couple more minutes. I want you to play around. So you can start in cross hamstring, just like before, or you can start in straight hamstring. So we're gonna switch sides. Straight, not cross. Now he has his knee shield, he has his frames. So now I wanna angle off. Beat the knee shield. Angle off, beat the frames. He doesn't want to open it that way. Well, we're going to open it this way. Same positions, same principles. Everything stays the same. Just the starting point is different. Right? I won't tell you when to switch. You can decide on what you want to play, how long you want to play. It's a 4-minute round, and after that, that's it. Before I forget, the photo booth will be over there, like right under the loop. So please, like, get all your clothes off of there so we can actually take pictures, do stuff, okay? Everybody clear on what you're supposed to do? 1, 2. Is not playing with the heavy knee until I beat the knee. Because, you know, you're on the hip and they're gonna elevate, and you're just gonna throw you over, right? So what we do instead of just playing here right from the get-go, we're gonna play here. So now it's gonna be really hard, and I can, you know, beat the knee one way or the other, and then I can switch if I want to, get the knee down because you cannot elevate it. Like this. So we went a little bit over time. So I'm not answering any questions right now, but it's open mat after. So just come grab me and I'll try to do my best to answer any questions you have. I hope you had a good time. And if you don't mind, I'd like to have a picture with you guys. Thank you very much.